Hi! You're watching Kerry Lyons of The Imperfect Life, and I am here to help you create the life that you want whilst also loving the messy adventure of creating it. And I am here, excitingly today, with the beautiful Lola Hoad.
Not so beautiful today.
Well, I think you're smouldering, personally.
But
we can tell the story of last night, perhaps, in your monologue.
A burst pipe situation that meant no sleep was had, but it's all fine. It's all good. Red lipstick solves everything.
Doesn't it?
There's no doubt about it. No doubt.
But guys, does she not look like divine for no sleep? Let's just make that clear. But yeah, so anyone that might not know you, Lola, which is just bananas, I don't get it at all. Tell them a bit about who you are, what you do, and all that lovely juice.
Yeah, so this is something I never get right. I always forget at least one thing. What do I do? So I'm Lola Hoad. I am the founder of One Girl Band, which is a community for female entrepreneurs and creatives who work for and by themselves. So anyone who is creating their own business or wants to create their own business, that's what we're for. We have a co-working space in Brighton, which when this goes out will actually be closed because we're closing it in May, but we can talk about that. A Facebook group, all community. We're very much about community over competition. So that's kind of everything stems from our community. We are for our community and by our community, essentially. I'm also a creative business coach, a writer, and a podcaster. And that is beautiful. The umbrella.
That was a beautiful umbrella. I imagine it to be one of those, like a parasol that has that cute point at the top. It's like a real,
or one of the hats that has the spinny thing on because it doesn't stop.
Yeah. Or the 1970s, let's just put a strap around our head and put a mini umbrella over the top of that.
Yes.
Any of those choices.
That is so functional, so stylish. Let's bring that back. I'm bringing it back.
Brilliant. So yeah, I mean, that's a beautiful insight for everyone. And I think anyone that is in that kind of realm of kind of having a creative streak and they're wanting to consider entrepreneurship or explore it, or they're kind of in it and they're struggling with juggling it in some way, Lola is the girl for you. Right. So just going back a bit though, Lola, because obviously the Imperfectionista of the month series is all about me showing my readers, viewers, that ordinary women can create their extraordinary journeys, right? So women that use their struggle for their success in particular, that's a real strong message that I want to try and get out there, that it's it doesn't matter what you've gone through, you can still make good of it, right? Yeah. So just going back a bit, so the Lola before BC, the Lola before you obviously have founded One Girl Band and done all this amazing stuff with all these amazing people in your community. What were you struggling with, and how did you feel about yourself and your life? Loaded question.
Big questions. No. I love it. I chose not to go to university. I moved to Brighton instead with my partner at the time, which my mum loved. She loved that decision. That was a great one on my part. And I was actually, from a very young age, I think from 11, 12-ish, I wanted to be a photographer. That was all I wanted to do. Luckily my school had it as a GCSE, so I did it in GCSEs, got full marks. That's the one thing I got full marks in. Did it as A-level when I only did A-levels for 2 months, so technically didn't really do it as an A-level, but practiced as an A-level.
Give
it a go. And then moved to Brighton and started a BTEC in photography. And I think because I'd done it for so long, in such a concentrated education kind of environment where it's all very technical and the only thing they really care about is if you referenced a picture correctly. It doesn't matter what shoots you're actually doing. It's all about the technical side of everything. And I think I just lost my love for it. And I remember the first day of the second year, I was like, I'm not coming back. I'm not doing this. I'm not this is it. As much as I love photography, I don't want to pursue this anymore. Which again, my mum loved. Brilliant. Another decision. She was like,
Yeah,
Okay.
here is a tick list on how you please your mother. Do this, do
Don't
this,
go
do
to
this.
university, move, yeah, all the things, all the things. Um, and so from there, I was like, what do I want to do?
Mhm.
Who do I want to be? Like, what is my life going to look like? What is my career going to look like? And as someone who has suffered from severe depression and panic disorder from 11, 12, um, I knew I couldn't go and work in a 9 to 5 conventional office job. Some people can, and I fucking admire them for it. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know how people do it. I can't function in that kind of environment. Um, so I knew that wasn't going to happen, or I was going to try as hard as possible to make sure that didn't happen. And then I was like, well, what's left? Like, what do I actually want to do? And I I worked in retail from 16 to 22 kind of thing. So I was popping in and out of retail, just trying to find my feet with whatever I could, doing internships in Brighton for like tiny digital companies. Eventually got a graphic design job for a teaching resources company, making the worksheets for schools. So like G is for giraffe and crosswords and all those. Not as fun as it sounds.
I was
Not as
gonna say,
fun
it does
as it
sound fun.
and kind of in that job, because it was such a small company, there was me, another girl, and the owner. So literally three of us. Um, because it was so intense and so concentrated, and because there were so few of us, we were basically running the business between us. So I didn't just do graphic design, I did marketing, I did the sales, I did the customer service, did all the things that weren't on my job description.
Right.
And it was kind of, as much as I look back and realize how much I hated that job and everything like that, it taught me so much on how to create your own business and how to grow your brand
Mhm.
and how to get it out there and make it sustainable and make money. Which is ironic because then the company failed and we got made redundant. So it was made redundant, and then I was like, oh, I have no idea what I'm going to do. There is no clear path. There's no
Sure.
conventional clear path I want to take. And that was really hard to admit. I felt like I was being a rebel, but an annoying rebel that was like, oh, I don't know, I don't want an office job. I don't want that. Like, but it was genuinely, I can't function in those sort of jobs. And trust me, I've tried
Yeah.
because that regular paycheck is always a little a little beacon.
Yeah.
Um, but
And how
so
were you
yeah,
kind of feeling at that time? Did you kind of, was there feelings of, that sense of like failure or anything like that? Like, what were the emotions like at that time?
yeah, I think it was failure, failure kind of, and disappointment in myself and not having this clear path. Because I think at
Mm-hmm.
school you're taught that you must know what you want to do with your life and
Mm-hmm.
who you want to be. Like, you're asked from such a young age, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
You're asked that when you're 3, 6, 10, like 14. And some people are like, yeah, I want to be a doctor. And then they work all their lives and they get to be a doctor and they're happy and they're fulfilled. And then some people are just, I have no idea. I don't know what I want to be. The options I'm being given aren't kind of executing that thrill for
Yeah.
me,
Mm-hmm.
thrill that I want. And it was very much that, like, uni just didn't, for me, just didn't, wasn't attractive for me. It wasn't appealing, especially with mental health issues. Like, education for me was a very dark time. So
Mm-hmm.
almost prolonging that, I was like, that's not going to happen. That's not
Yeah.
going to happen. So when the redundancy came, the girl who was also in the company, she had a little Etsy shop. And I remember just being like, oh, what's Etsy? Like, what is this? I thought it was an American thing. I didn't realize it was over here kind of thing. And she kind of explained it, showed me, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I had always done hand lettering as a kid. Like, I couldn't draw to save my life, but I loved that kind of angsty writing out song lyrics kind of thing. So I learned to kind of
Pencil cases and
just like
yeah.
everything like that. So yeah, I just one day I was like, oh, maybe I could like start making cards and prints and sell them on Etsy. Obviously, it isn't going to be a full-time job, but might be worth kind of exploring that.
Mm-hmm.
I had never in school or in my life, even though my parents are self-employed, I'd never really heard. I'd never really been shown an example of working for yourself and
Mm-hmm.
having your own business. Like, obviously my dad's a plumber and my mum owns a shop, so they work for themselves and they have a business, but it never really clicked with me that I could do something like that. It was almost like I was never really given permission to do that, especially from school. So when I kind of saw her doing that and got really interested and researched and Instagram, kind of saw people on there doing their own thing, I was like, oh, okay, I might give this a shot. And so when the redundancy came, we kind of had 2 weeks warning. And then the redundancy came, and I said to my partner at the time, I was like, I'm not going to get another job. I'm not going to go back to 9 to 5. And he was like, okay.
Just so you know, that's not happening.
Exactly. I had a tiny redundancy package, and I'd had a car accident the year before. So I had like a tiny insurance payout from that. I think it was like $3,000 to kind of live on. And in Brighton, that's probably 3 months living. So it was very much, I'm throwing myself onto this net and I'm going to create the net kind of afterwards. I don't know who I thought I was. I don't know where I got that I don't know where that spark of bravery came from, because at that time I was very shy. I was very unconfident. I couldn't order my food in a restaurant. I couldn't speak on the phone, never answer the door. I was very, very shy. And almost, I really do affiliate with the fact that since starting my business and growing everything and putting myself out there, that's where my confidence has come from. So that's why I can now speak on the phone. I used to hate Skype. I love Skype. That's my job. I have to love Skype.
Yeah, it's like the introvert's kind of like social life. It's like, I don't actually touch you or see you, but we can talk.
It really is like that. I can go for a lie down straight after just to recharge. But it was.
Okay, guys, so this is what the imperfect life is all about. Things aren't perfect, right? Internet dies. Lola disappears.
She goes into other rooms and oh man.
So anyway, we have Lola back, and she's hopefully in a more connectively safe environment for our connection and conversation to continue. But yeah, so you were talking around where were we? You were talking around.
We both had to go back and listen to it so we could remember, because it was 20 minutes of trying to get the internet to work. I was saying about how starting my business from knowing nothing. I still don't know a lot, but at that time, knowing absolutely nothing, and kind of getting it to, well, I suppose, where obviously LH Design shut down nearly 2 years ago in September coming up. So that isn't applicable now, but kind of everything from that time has either grown me as a person, grown my confidence, because like I was saying, I was just super shy, super introverted. And now people describe me as an extrovert, and I'm like, you don't know me. You don't know. If that's what you think, you don't know me. But it's funny kind of looking at how something pretty scary and looks pretty big to do. Like whenever I kind of say, like I got an Uber last night and he asked me what I did, and I was like, oh, I ran a couple of businesses, and he was like, And I was like, no, I didn't mean it like that. But like I guess it sounds quite good. I know the reality of it. It's not great, but like all entrepreneurs do, kind of thing. I think my family can't really believe that I am doing what I'm doing because of how shy I was.
Right. But do you think that's maybe because you've kind of like stepped into your kind of zone of genius that you 100%. Flourish, right?
Like I'm very lucky to have discovered my purpose and my passion at a fairly young age. I started LH Design at 19, kind of thing. So it was very early on that I was like, this is it. This is what kind of soothes my soul and gets that fire up underneath me. And I'm very lucky to have discovered that at such a young age. I know that doesn't happen for everyone. I know not everyone has that call until midlife beyond, kind of thing. So yeah, it's definitely a thing of I've kind of stepped into the person I hopefully have stepped into the person I want to be. And that comes from helping women grow their businesses and their confidence and get them to a life that they deserve and desire. Like that's all I ever want to do in life. It doesn't matter what it looks like. I just want to do that.
Yeah.
That's why it changes quite often.
Yeah, and I can totally relate. And I think that's the same. It's having this common thread of like, this is what I'm being pulled to do. This is what feels so right to do. And I feel like completely energized when I do it, but it can take any form.
It can look like anything. It doesn't have to look like the same thing forever. It won't look like the same thing forever. I mean, things have changed so much in the past month, let alone the past 5 years when I started doing this. Like, it is so unpredictable. It's so zigzaggy. You don't know what's going to happen and you can't plan for it, kind of thing. Your feelings might change towards a certain aspect of business you were once so passionate and thrilled about. Your feelings might change about that. And that's what happened with LH Design. I kind of got to the point where I'd taken it as far as I wanted to take it. And it was very much like, okay, it's time to put that aside and focus on One Girl Band and get that going. And now that is my main avenue, it's now going, okay, what can we do with One Girl Band to change it? Because I'm very much, I mean, I just moved to Glasgow 2 months ago now. So my life's changed, everything's changed, and I've got that itchy, like, what else needs to change?
Yeah, I'm exactly the same.
Yeah,
I'm exactly the same. Yeah, it's just, I think it's needing the challenge, isn't it? It's kind of needing that like stimulation. It's a creative kind of like spirit in you that just needs to be like on
it's
something.
It's a blessing and a curse, 100%.
Yeah. But that's amazing though. So like, I think for both of us, it's been a case of what our own struggle was. So with our own confidence, with that kind of trying to find our place, and with our own struggle with mental health, that then it's brought us to this place where we can, the journey that we thrust ourselves into, like with you going, I'm not going back to work, that's what I'm doing. And with me, I literally like ended a relationship that was like 12 years, sold a house, quit my job and just did all this stuff. What we learned from the process of that is what brought us to like, 100%. This is going to be my success.
Yeah, and we are a lifetime work in progress. Like if I look back on the past 5, 6, 7 years of my life, I have done that so many times. Well, there's been 3 kind of major shifts in the past 7 years. Like me and my partner of 7 years broke up last year, so that was a big shift of going, the life I thought I was gonna build and have isn't happening anymore. Okay, what's going to happen instead? And kind of moving up here, that was a big shift. And with the businesses in general, like they have all organically changed so much without me having to. I've never been that, you know, when you go into a job interview, like you used to go into job interviews and they say, oh, where do you want to be in 5 years' time? I have no idea, because I know something will change. I know something will pop up unexpectedly, unannounced, and you'll just be like, okay, I have to make it work with that. Like, I think I'm very privileged to have that mindset, because I know a lot of people don't like change, and I would say I don't like change. If it's out of my control, I don't like it. But if I have that itch, I have to act on it. I was the same as a kid. I started and finished so many instrument lessons. Like I learned the saxophone, I learned the viola, I learned drums, guitar. Didn't learn them. I did them for like 3 months, and I was like, no, I'm done. I don't want to do it.
Oh my God, you can make your own literal one girl band of all these instruments. Like
that is where the name came from. I'm not even lying. That's where the name came. Yeah, I was telling someone how many. Honestly, no one ever, like I never tell anyone it, because it's so like I can't remember, I was just at a pub or something and I was telling someone how many instruments I started at school and just didn't finish, and how I'd like start the clubs to get the uniforms and then just not go back. So like brownies, I just wanted the uniform, I didn't want to go to brownies. And I remember them being like, oh, so you were like a one girl band, and I was like, I'm gonna remember that.
So you heard that first here, guys. Exclusive. That's where it came from. What a scoop.
She was in the pub.
Journalistic scoop. That's amazing. I love that. I love it when it has a story. You should talk about that more, because that's funny.
It's I just love that name. So I am so proud whenever people are like, I love the name. I'm like, I know. That's the one moment where I'm really arrogant about the fact that I came up. I don't know why. But yeah.
Beautiful. So like, I guess, I mean, that was like a beautiful kind of journey that we just kind of went on there, which
That was my
like,
life story
yeah,
right there. You
amazing.
guys got the brunt of that.
Not the
Obviously
brunt,
missing out.
the privilege is what it is, the privilege of that. But like, I guess, are there any things or any one thing that you feel if you'd have known back then, it would have either accelerated your progress, journey, place in the world, view of the world now, if you knew back then? Is there anything that kind of like stands out to you in that way?
I think there are two things that stand out, but I'm not going to be that interviewee. I'm going to give you one thing because you asked for one thing.
It could be two. It could be two if you want to.
It's like when people are like, actually, I have 5 things. Like, okay.
Yeah, can I do 7?
I guess the kind of main one has been the very cliche trusting my own gut, but in a way that when I first started, because I really had no clue what I was doing, I didn't do business studies. I obviously didn't do a business degree. I didn't know what business actually was apart from the exchange of money, which essentially that's what it is.
Yeah.
I had no clue. And I think the only way I felt confident and felt like I almost had my shit together was consuming all of this content, all of the content around business, social media, mindset, and just reading blog posts all day long, listening to podcasts all day long, buying all the books, all the e-courses that tell you you can get 10 grand in a month if you follow this 3-step rule, but you don't actually find out what the 3-step rule is because then you have to buy the other e-course. And I was just in this cycle of consumption.
Right.
And I wasn't doing business the way I wanted to do it. I was doing it the way these gurus were telling me to do it and these experts. And I think the biggest wake-up call around that, and it kind of ties into my second one, I had a big burnout episode 3 years ago now. Oh, that's crazy. Where I had hustled, hate that word, more than life, hustled every damn day as Pinterest told me to do, and just collapsed out of exhaustion, fractured my skull, broke my nose, very dramatic. And
God.
It was a time of, okay, I've not been working in a way that works for me. I've been working in this way that looks socially acceptable and that you see on Instagram. You see everyone humble bragging about how many meetings they've got that day, or when someone asks, how's business going? Everyone, and I'm so guilty of this still. I do it with my dad because he just likes to hear the word busy. I just, oh, it's so busy. It's so busy. Even when it's not, it's just, oh, it's so busy. And we've equated busy as successful. And I think kind of having that burnout episode and realizing that I was just listening to all these people, I wasn't listening to me. It was that massive wake-up call of, I want to do business my way. And that might not look like the shiny, professional kind of white girl at a desk with a laptop, like all smiles kind of thing. It is sweary. It is imperfect to a T. It's very messy and it goes back and forth and it's very zigzaggy, but that is me essentially. And I've always been a firm believer in being 100% myself through business, through life. Of course, you can but then I'm also a believer of I'm 100% myself, but this is another version of me. Like I wouldn't be sat at the pub speaking like this kind of thing. Like, yeah. Do sometimes get quite coachy on my pals, but I'm trying to stop it. Like, it's just something in me. I'm like, so how are you feeling about this? Yeah. What can we do? What can we do to get you? But like, it's still me, and on social media is the same thing. I'm very much me. It's just a different version of me. It's like, again, when you go into a job interview, you are you. You're just a different version. You're the kind of, let's pretend I'm put together and I won't swear for 20 minutes and things like that. And I think, in summary, the long and short of it is I just wish I had trusted myself from the very beginning and kind of listened to my gut and my instinct so much more, because whenever and I still do it now, like again, this is kind of an example of an imperfect life. Like, even when you know these things, we don't practice what we preach, and I still have these moments where I have a really strong gut feeling about saying no to something, or maybe turning down an opportunity, or just not doing something. I have such a strong gut feeling, but I'll still do the thing. And then a week, a day, an hour later, something will happen where I've been, okay, that's why I shouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
It happens every single time. And I think I probably could have avoided a lot of mistakes back then. But then I also think the mistakes are what make you. The failures are what make you. You wouldn't learn if you didn't fuck up all the time. And that is definitely where my head's at the moment, is kind of thinking this, like, for example, the space closing, for a couple of days, I was like, well, that failed. That's it. Like, I'm a failure because I couldn't keep this physical space open. But reframing that and going, I haven't failed, it's just a lesson. It's all just lessons. Like, that has been probably the most helpful thing I could kind of say to a person, is like, fail, make mistakes, fuck up. And that's the only way you're going to progress and grow and get closer to a version of yourself you want to be.
Yeah, and I think we're cut from the same cloth, because I just preach that, like, on loop to, like, the community that I'm kind of like gathering, and it's like, it's so key to frame it as that. So, like, for you to have done what you did with that space is like amazing, right? So many people talk of doing that kind of stuff all the time. You did it. It's not where you want to be, right? But you couldn't have actually kind of like quenched that urge without trying it. And the same with the cards, with the same with the lettering, the same with my own journey. Like, you have to. In fact, I was talking about last night. I had a group coaching call last night with the students of my program, and this sense of regret that people have. It's like, but I've already kind of committed and spent X amount of money on this. And it's just like, but see it as like a business expense.
Yeah.
That it's like, you have to do that experiment. Yeah. That's
the thing. Like, as soon as I start to dread doing something, I know that it's time to think about stopping it. And as much as I adore the space and I adore the women in there and how far we've gotten, and the fact that we're still open, like, through so much mess and so much trouble that I don't document because it's boring. It's all to do with building work and everything like that, and that's not fun, that's not sexy on Instagram. But like, the fact that it has gotten up to this point, I am incredibly proud of. But there came a point, it was kind of just before I moved up here, slightly after I moved up here, where I was like, I love it, but it's just not me anymore. Yeah. At least down in Brighton, it's not me. We're hoping to open one up here, and then we want to keep that physical space, because I firmly believe that face-to-face connection is so important. So we do want to keep a space going.
A version of it, yeah.
A version of it. We just need to work out a way that is sustainable to start with, and that has everyone's interests at heart. I think that's kind of been the biggest learning curve, is pleasing yourself and everyone else, but in a way that isn't kind of, oh, I need to please you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's a bit convoluted. Like, I can't like go 100% into deep. Like, it's not dramatic or anything like that, but it's just been one of those things where you kind of have to come to terms with it and be like, okay, it's time to transition from that one now, and let's try it again sometime.
Yeah, everything's an experiment. Everything's an experiment.
There's
right. No, it doesn't, like, an experiment that is outside of your physical body is no reflection on you as a character or you as a person.
Yes, you're not defined by your successes or your failures. I remember reading that somewhere only last year, I think it was, and I was like, oh my Lord, that's so true.
And like, the minute you do either is a problem.
Even on your good days, you're not defined by it. Like, you're not defined by an event. You're defined by you and your talent and your skill and your passion and your purpose. Like, you're, yes, I could warble on.
So, like, if there are kind of women out there who are kind of feeling a similar sense of like exhaustion and stress and burnout, and maybe they are. And now we have Lola back again. So this is third time lucky. We're going to knock this out the park now.
It's a Friday. Technology doesn't work on a Friday. It's like, no,
Everyone's like logged
working.
off. Yeah, I'm going for the pub for a drink. See you later, internet. Okay, so yeah, we were just wanting to like tie a bow on it really. So like if someone is feeling that exhaustion, that burnout, and that they're just getting to that point of like, I'm going to crumble. I can't cope. Like where can they start? What is their starting point?
Take a step back first and foremost. The universe isn't going to end if you don't go on Instagram for a day, or if you don't look at your inbox for a day, even more than a day. Like things will continue, and you can pick it up again when you're feeling better. The most important thing at this point, when you can feel that burnout coming, is to stop and rest, and literally rest. Sit on the sofa, watch Netflix. Just do what you can to check in with yourself again and to feel what's going on in your body. Like I think we've all grown into a habit of, I know for me, I'll get to about this time in the day, kind of 2:30, and I realize my shoulders are up here and my jaw is locked. And then I go, oh wait, hang on. Because we're just in this state of, oh my God, I need to go. And that's the first symptom of getting close to burnout, is when our bodies, like when we step away from our desks at the end of the day and our bodies literally go, oh my God, like melt. That's the
physical tension,
symptom. Physical tension and mental exhaustion and everything like that. It's so important just to prioritize you and to really work on avoiding that guilt, because that is the long and short of it as to why we burn out, is because we feel we must be available 24/7. We feel we have to be working these 14-hour days. Otherwise we feel guilty that we're not working 14-hour days, we're not putting our best foot forward and everything like that. But the most important thing is to take time for you. So quite literally schedule it into your schedule. Use white space. Make sure your diary isn't completely filled to the brim every week, because that's just when it gets dangerous. I think we've grown up with this kind of conditioning of, oh, your diary must be full every day, you must have something on it all the time. No. Like prioritize you, and that's kind of where the journey starts. And then you get closer to diminishing that guilt, and you get closer to setting boundaries and setting office hours and everything like that. It's a practice. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't kind of switch into this mindset of, I don't give a fuck, I'm just gonna work when I can. Like it does take time to kind of get to a point where you feel like there might be some sort of balance, and then that will be thrown out the window, and then it will come a time where you have to relearn it again. Like it is not, we're not meant to be in consistent state of busyness, and we're also like, we're never going to have that balance 100% right. There are going to be times where we have to do, it's just what's that thing called when you put something on it?
Scales?
Yeah.
Like that word?
that modern appliance that definitely comes.
The thing when you put things on that way and then you put them that way.
And then the other thing goes on, and then it kind of... This is me on 2 hours sleep.
To be fair, you've done amazing. The three episode version of one conversation. But I think that's really good advice that you're saying there, because if you are someone that does love like having that to-do list and like doing that time blocking of like, I'm going to do this from 7 till 8, and then I'm going to do this from 8 to 9, carving a slot that is stop time.
Yeah,
if that's how you love it, you like to have that like regimented approach to like, I'm getting stuff done. Put in a slot that's just for you. That is going for a walk.
4 slots.
Yeah. 3-4 slots even. Let's go to town.
Have a lunch break. Take an hour's lunch break. Whenever I say that, people are like, no, I could never do that. Yeah. The world is not going to end if you take an hour lunch break.
Yeah.
Like your business is not going to end if you take an hour lunch break. If anything, your business is going to grow because you're taking the time to look out for you. And there, when you get back to work, you're feeling energized, you're feeling refreshed, and then things are going to go a lot smoother. But if you're just constantly working, it's quantity over quality there. Like it's kind of, let's fit as many hours in as possible of just filler unnecessary work. So yeah, just kind of just prioritize you, and just remember it's a daily practice. You're not going to get it perfect all the time.
And it's quality over quantity. Again, that applies in so many areas of life, doesn't it? But it's really true there as well.
100%.
Beautiful. I'm so sad to wrap this up, because it's like, I love like having a chat with you every 5 minutes. We should do this every day.
Different backgrounds.
Now Lola's on the balcony.
I wish I had a balcony. I live in Glasgow. I don't have any balconies in Glasgow.
Well, Lola's opened the window.
The sun is shining today. It's a beautiful day.
It is a good day. Oh, actually, it's not that great in Birmingham, but I'm glad you're having Glasgow. But thank you so much, Lola. Like, where can people find out about you and, you know, maybe absorb all the One Girl Band stuff?
Yeah, well, where can they? So I'm on Instagram as Hoad _, and the One Girl Band Instagram is onegirlband _. And then the websites are lolahoad.co.uk and onegirlband.co.uk. And the podcast is the One Girl Band podcast. And we've actually just been nominated for Podcast of the Year by Blogosphere, which is pretty, I'm trying to keep my cool with it, but I'm almost like,
that's amazing.
It's just a little thing recorded in my bedroom with no sponsorship, no big brands behind it, and kind of the other nominees are big people. And I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, wow. So, cheers to you, Mrs. That's amazing.
Go vote if you want.
Definitely. So what's that? Blogosphere Podcast Awards?
Yeah.
Vote for the One Girl Band
like
podcast.
A general awards, but then there's a podcast category.
Okay, then you hear that, people. Blogosphere Awards category within podcasts. One Girl Band podcast. Vote for it. Make it a part of your day.
I just get to wear a shiny dress and go to an award ceremony. That's all I care about.
Yeah, and just go like this all night.
So, yeah.
Amazing. Oh, cheers to you. That's really, really cool. Well done. Delighted for you. Amazing. So I don't want to say goodbye, but I suppose I have to. Thank you so much, everybody that's watched this far and kind of got the three.
That's
this is like the omnibus of Hollyoaks on a Sunday.
A lot less drama than Hollyoaks. Well,
that's to be decided. Amazing. Thank you so much, Lola. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.